If you sell IUL annuities or final expense, you need to understand that the game is different now. Andromeda changed a lot of things on Meta, and honestly, it put a lot of lead vendors in a very weird spot, and you may be experiencing the tail end of that right now. And again, it's not because lead vendors suddenly forgot how to generate leads. In a weird way, the very opposite is true. It is because it is now easier than ever for agencies, brokers, IMOs, and lead vendors to generate cheap leads on Meta at scale if they know what they're doing. There are people generating SMS verified final expense leads where everyone is 45 years or older and that's verified, and they're doing that at sub $5. There are people that are generating $8 to $20 pre-qualified IUL leads that again are also SMS verified, and you can just keep continuing this trend through term, whole life annuities, and so on. Cheap leads are easier than ever to generate. So the question is, why isn't everyone in the life insurance industry a billionaire? And while that is a mildly sarcastic question, obviously it matters because the problem is not that leads disappeared. It's more so that buyers completely changed, and Meta decided to change along with those buyers. For years, the life insurance industry was built around this one core idea that if I buy leads, I dial them, I hope they answer, I hope they remember opting in, I hope they trust me after I dialed them a bajillion times, and then I hope they buy. Okay, which is not a system, which is certain, and it's definitely not an ecosystem. It's 14 hours of gambling wrapped in a burrito of, oh, just smile and dial, which, by the way, never helped anyone. And what Andromeda did was make the entire game harder for people trying to go that route. It's why you may have hired someone who does some form of meta advertising or some form of lead generation through Meta this year, and why it didn't pan out. Because Meta is not looking for who clicks, who watches anymore. Meta is trying to understand who's most likely to buy from you. And it is your job to tell Meta why. And that is why agents who win going forward are not going to be the ones who generate cheap leads, because Meta now treats the lead generation as a conversion. Meta now treats that as a purchase. So Meta's algorithm Andromeda is actually incentivized if you're doing lead generation and you just want leads into, oh, this person became a lead, therefore this person purchased. That is what Andromeda thinks when a lead is generated now. Even though that's not true, the way Andromeda is built on the back end can't help but think that. Because your job is now not to trick people into buying a thing that they don't want to buy or opting into a thing that they otherwise wouldn't have opted into. Meta now knows who your buyers are and who your potential leads are. Your job is to give Meta enough information so that it understands why it should be giving you quality leads and quality appointments at scale. So again, if you're the right person and you know how to do that, this shift is great for you because it's not about leads. And now that Meta has made this shift, it has made consulting companies like life insurance brokers, agents, agencies, IMOs, it's made this even easier for you. You just have to be willing to accept it. Now, before I go into any further, there's something you should know. There's something called the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and it officially hit back in 2025 on the 1st of January. And what happened with a lot of lead vendors is they went from, I enable some targeting, I have an ad creative, I run one ad creative, I create things as cheap as possible, and then I sell leads to you. And they're like, oh, cool, I generate, like, these leads are usually, regardless of buyer, they're about a 5 to 6 out of 10 out of quality. Some of them are a 10 out of 10. And then they move on. But now that insurance is a special ad category, you can do age targeting and income targeting. It is possible. But the things that make it possible are different because you can't go to the targeting natively in platform anymore. If you want to know how to get age and income targeting without being in violation of the Fair Credit Reporting Act, link, by the way, to my school community 1 week free trial, right? Free to join. But anyway, we're not trying to bypass compliance at all. Even with my workaround, we are not bypassing compliance in any way because that's stupid. That's how you get your ad account restricted. That's how you get your ads rejected. Sometimes even worse, potentially outright bans, because the setup matters. The structure matters. The offer matters. How you set up your CRM matters because the follow-up matters. How they interacted with your landing page as well as the landing page itself matters. The creative matters way more than it ever did before. And the signals and expectations you give to Meta matter even more than before. And if you get those pieces wrong, you will have the cheapest leads in your entire life. You will never be able to get a hold of them. So let's talk about what changed. Meta is no longer a place where you can go and interrupt random people. Meta is moving towards being the place where people want to buy, which is a huge difference because old Meta ads were, again, here's an audience, here's an ad, let's see who clicks. The new way that Meta goes about things is now where is the buyer on their journey? Are they ready to buy from you yet? Here is what I know the signals to be to make that happen. Here's what they told me the offer is. Now I, the AI, the machine, am going to send these creatives to that one person specifically. That is why a lot of old school lead vendors are going to keep struggling. Not all of them. The ones that are very, very good are going to be just fine, but the ones that just want to sell names, emails, and phone numbers without understanding intent, trust, show rate, appointment quality, number of bookings are just going to get squeezed harder and harder, and then they, by extension, are forced to squeeze you harder and harder. And that's where the OMNI method comes in. OMNI means every in Latin. The reason I call it that is because it's not one channel. It's not just run ads. It's not just post content. It's not just funnel data into a CRM. It's not just follow up later. It's about everything working together in tandem all at once. That is how you stop depending on one lead vendor, one campaign, one ad, one viral post that you got lucky for a week on. The OMNI method is built around three things: turning attention into trust and then trust into conversions. That's the three-step process. You need attention from the right people. You need the right people to trade that attention that they give you in order for reasons for them to trust you. And you need a conversion system that moves them from interested to booked to qualified to purchase. Most agents are only going to focus on one of those. I'm currently teaching 97 of them. Everyone's only focusing on one, and you all seem to focus on different ones. Okay, you guys are asking, how much is the lead? What is the cost per lead? How many leads can I get? But those are incomplete questions, because a better question would be, how many qualified conversations can I have? How many of those conversations show up? How many of those people are already understand why they want or should talk to me? How many are actually in a position to buy? And how much trust exits before I ever say the word hello? That is the real game. Here is why most agents are getting trapped. They think if they can get a cheaper lead, then the business is solved. But the cheaper leads do not automatically fix anything. If anything, they cause more problems. If your leads are cheap but nobody answers, you've just gambled. And you've gambled without the dopamine. If your leads are cheap, but they do not remember filling out the form, that means absolutely nothing to you. If your leads are cheap, but they think they're getting something for free from the government, that does not help you. If your leads are cheap, but they don't show up to the appointment or shop around with 39 other life insurance agents where you're all offering the exact same carrier, that doesn't help you. A cheap lead can be expensive if you put it in a shitty system. And a more expensive lead can be cheap if the person shows up, trusts you, and buys. So when I say it's not about leads, this is what I mean. The lead is one event in an actual quality ecosystem. Okay? The first part of the OMNI method is attention. Meta has to know who cares about you. And the way that is done is through signals. People watch the ad, people stop watching, people click, people comment, they'll engage in the ad creative, they open up the lead form if you're running lead forms, they will call, they will book, they will show up, they buy. Every one of those actions teaches the machine something valuable. And the problem, most agents give Meta terrible signals. They want to run one creative at $5 to $20 a day in ad spend. And then they want to make a bajillion dollars in 30 seconds without having to do any work. They send people to a weak lead form. They send people to a lead form or a landing page that makes people want to click away instead of opt in. They ask boring questions that everyone already knows. And if they are trying any kind of pre-qualifying, then they're just getting a bunch of liars and or tire kickers. They do not have a page that overcomes their top 10 objections that they hear. Then they blame the lead, but not the machine that only knows how to give you a bad experience and not a good one, because you didn't tell it to. The second part is trust, where the buyers themselves have changed. They have seen horrible ads with horrible messaging, and then they get called by a bajillion random people a day, and then they fill out, okay, and then after experiencing all of that, then they fill out your form or someone else's form, and they regretted it immediately. They have been, especially if you're doing final expense, they have been chased by so many people, so many agents. They have been lied to by so many marketers. So when someone opts in, that does not mean they trust you or want to buy. It means you earned a tiny moment of attention for a premium. So the next question is, what happens next? Do they see any social proof of you? Do they understand why you are different? Do they understand your process? Do they get reminded? Do they get educated? Do they get pre-sold, where a lot of the pre-overcoming objections I was talking about comes in? Or do they get thrown into a CRM and hammered with, are you still interested in purchasing my life insurance product? That is the difference between a lead system and a customer generating ecosystem. The third part in this conversation is where the old model completely breaks down. The old model was, I generate a lead, I let the agent figure it out. The new model is, I generate attention, I build the trust, I trigger the right actions from the right people so that I can have the right conversations. That can be a call, an appointment, them messaging you directly. That can be some kind of live transfer setup, or some kind of, like, they just call you instantly. That can be some kind of quiz or other form of lead form. That can be, after they complete all of those steps, a due diligence page where we begin the first process of pre-overcoming objections. And so it depends on what you sell, where the person is at in their buying cycle. Final expense is not the same as IUL. IUL is not the same as annuities, and annuities is not the same as recruiting agents. The mistake is treating every buyer as the same person, because they are not. And this is where a lot of lead vendors get seriously uncomfortable. They sold the same basic thing way too many times. The lead came in, the agent gets a name, a phone number, an email, maybe a few qualifying questions that they just lie on anyway. And then it's just good luck after that point. And for a while, that worked well enough. And it worked well enough that people could just sell the same data over and over and over again. And while that worked for a period, agents were used to doing all of the heavy lifting manually. But the new meta environment rewards you for being better. It rewards better creative. It rewards giving it better signals. And it rewards better sequencing, follow-up, and so on. It rewards and funnels the match that buyers actually want. In other words, it's playing matchmaker with you. So yes, Andromeda put a lot of lead vendors in a difficult position. I was hired by 8 of them last year to fix the very problem that I'm talking with you about now, right? But it is going to keep putting them in a difficult situation because they are not adapting. Because if agents can generate their own demand, build their own audience, run their own ads, and control their own ecosystem, they do not need to keep renting their own prosperity indefinitely into the future. That is the part that no one wants to bring up right now. So does that mean every agent should become a full-time media buyer? Depends on who you ask, right? But probably not. This is not at all what I'm saying. You do need to become a technical ads nerd. No. Do you need to stare at Ads Manager all day? Do you need to day trade with your ad spend? Do you need to understand the basic system? Not necessarily. Because if you don't understand these things, or work with someone that fully understands these things, you are dependent entirely upon someone else to explain to you why your money went down the toilet for the 13th time. And that is a bad place to be in. So the agents who win the next few years are going to be the agents who understand enough to ask better questions. They need to understand why creative matters. They need to understand why retention matters. They need to understand why show rate matters. They need to understand why a $5 lead is costing them money. They need to understand why a $30 lead is way more profitable than it ever was before. They will understand why more leads is not always the answer. So the OMNI method is simple. Build attention, build trust, convert the demand that follows, then keep improving the system. This is what the video really talks about. This isn't theory for the sake of theory. This isn't just to generate leads or some hack where you can make infinity dollars in 30 seconds without doing any work. This is about understanding how the modern system works so you can stop depending on one lead source, one vendor, and one campaign or one lucky ad, because theory is nice, but implementation is what makes money. If you found the information in this video helpful, then what I want you to do is subscribe for free value. And if you ever at any point want to go back to a particular point in this video and not have to watch the video all the way through, I'll go ahead and link some timestamps directly inside the description of this video. Have a good one.